Hi there, I'm Sweetie from Access Language School, and in today's lesson we will be looking at how to do well on the speaking part of the IELTS. So the speaking part of the IELTS is divided up into three sections. Today we are just going to be looking at section number 1. So first of all, I'll explain how to do well. First I'll explain what happens in part 1 of the IELTS, and from there we'll look at some things you should do to do well and some things you shouldn't do. Okay, so let's get started. So what happens in part 1 of the IELTS? Well, first of all, the speaking part 1 of the IELTS is for both taking the general IELTS exam and the academic. So whether you are taking the academic or general IELTS, it's the same test with the same questions. Okay? It lasts between 4 to 5 minutes. It's made up for the first an introduction, so the examiner is going to introduce himself or herself. Then you'll introduce yourself. So for example, hi, my name is Sweetie, nice to meet you. Okay, so there is an introduction. And then the examiner is going to ask you some questions about yourself. So these questions aren't that difficult. Usually they are about where you are from. So for example, what city you were born in, where you grew up. They might be about work, they might be about what you study, about your friends, about your hobbies, food, sports, and another thing I don't have up here, family. Family is also common on this part of the IELTS. Okay, so usually the examiner, after introducing himself or herself, they will talk to you about two of these topics. Okay, now the way they mark this part of the IELTS is they are looking especially for pronunciation. So, can they understand what you are saying? Do you pronounce things well? They are going to be looking at fluency. So, what's fluency? Well, do you go a lot during the test, or do you speak very clearly in a very nice rhythmic way? Do you use organizers or transitions? First of all. Secondly, finally, do you use words like this? Another reason, or do you have problems speaking at the normal rate? So they look at that fluency. Then they mark you also on vocabulary. Do you use words like good or bad a lot? Those are very low level words. Or do you use high level words that really shows off your vocabulary? The final thing, you are marked on the grammar and accuracy. So for example, do you only use the present tense for the all test, or are you able to correctly use the present tense, the past tense, the present perfect, future? How well is your grammar? Okay, so don't panic, maybe you are weak in grammar. Maybe you make some mistakes in grammar, but you are marked equally on these 4 components. Okay, so now let's look at some tips on how do you well on part 1, one of the speaking part of the IELTS. Okay, so what are some of the things we should do to get a good mark in part 1 of IELTS for speaking? Well, we have a list here of do's, okay? So these are things you want to do. So the first thing that's very important is when you first meet an examiner, okay, if you are very nervous and you don't make eye contact and you look at the floor the whole time, you are not going to do well on the IELTS, even if your English is pretty good. So it's very important to present yourself with confidence. Okay, you want to go into that test and know you are going to do well. If you think you are going to do well, you are going to do a lot better. Okay, if you think you are going to do badly, you are probably going to do badly. So think you are going to do well and be confident. Okay, Another important thing is be friendly. If you want to smile, body language is actually very important in IELTS. You want to make eye contact, so don't look at your feet, don't look at your hands, look at the examiner. But you don't have to stare at them. Just look at them when you talk. Another thing a lot of students forget this is they don't act excited when they are answering questions. So, what do I mean by this? Well, they talk with a monotone. So, for example, do you like playing sports? This is a common question on the IELTS. A student might respond, I really like playing basketball. Basketball is a good sport. If the examiner hears that, you are probably not going to get a good mark. You should act excited about what you are saying. Yes, I love sports. Basketball is my favorite. I love watching basketball. It's all a lot of fun to play. If you seem excited, you will do better. The next thing that's very important is the vocabulary you use. So remember, you are getting marked on 4 different things. One of these things is vocabulary. So how do you improve your vocabulary mark? Well, don't use simple, easy, boring, low-level words like I like basketball because it's good. I don't like soccer because it's bad. Okay, these words bad, good, they are too easy. You need to try to find vocabulary that is higher level and practice before you do the IELTS. So for example, a good thing to do is look at the list of topics you will probably be asked about. Food is a very common thing they will ask you about. So try to come up with vocabulary in advance and practice this vocabulary about the different topics. So for example, I know they may be asked a question about food. So I might learn some words that have to do with food. Maybe I don't know the word cuisine. Well, if they ask me a question about food, I can say, my favorite type of food, I love Indian cuisine. And there you go. They have just noticed you used a higher level word. Same with friends. A common word we use when we talk about friends, we talk about acquaintances. So this is another good word to use. So again, try to come up with vocabulary for each of the different topics and practice. Okay, now in this part of the IELTS, the examiner may ask you about what you like. Do you like to play sports? What hobbies do you like? What are your favorite foods? Now, one thing a lot of students do is they overuse I like this, I like that. This is not going to help you with your vocabulary mark. So instead of using I like a lot, try something different. I enjoy playing basketball. I enjoy hanging out with my friends. I really love yoga. I really love bowling. Okay, I prefer playing sports to doing other activities. So I really love, I prefer. I'm sure you can come up with more. But it's good to practice these types of expressions before you do the IELTS. Another key tip, expand your answers. So what does it mean? Well, maybe examiner asks you a question, do you like to play sports? The examiner might ask you that. Some students might say no. And then their answer, do you like to play sports? Do you like to cook? No. Well, the examiner is not going to be able to judge your English if you answer questions yes or no. You have to give bigger, longer answers. So this is what I mean by expand. Don't just say yes or no. Even if don't know what to say, make something up. So for example, a common question they ask, where are you from? Now I could just say, I'm from Toronto. This isn't going to help my IELTS mark. It's better if I expand this answer. I'm from Toronto. It's actually a biggest city in Canada. It's also considered one of the most multicultural cities in the world. I don't have to talk too long about Toronto. I don't want to say a long history of Toronto. I don't want to keep talking and talking. But I don't want a very short answer. So you need to find an answer that is not too short and not too long. You want something in the middle. Okay, so that's what I mean by expand. One way to expand your answer is by giving examples. So I asked this question earlier. What's your favorite food? Oh, I love Indian cuisine. How can I add to this? I can give examples. My favorite dish is palak paneer. It's made from spinach. A type of cheese they use in India, spices. We often eat in my house, so there instead of just saying I like Indian food, I have given a lot of examples, and that's what you want to do. Okay. Finally, most importantly, practice. So you know the types of questions you are going to get. A lot about what you do for work. Do you study? How many people are in your family? These types of questions. Now it's important to practice your answers. Practice with your friends. Practice with a mirror. Practice, practice, practice. It's very important that you practice the answering these types of questions before you do the IELTS. So guys, thank you for watching this video. I'll be right back with the next informative video.